Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. All right, first question. Hey Jason, thoughts on salt loading before a workout? I think salt loading pre-training should be almost mandatory. And the reason for that, it has to do with strength, hydration, everything else. And when you're dealing with a lot of that, we're dealing with something that's beneficial in a different way than taking a pre-workout will. So, I mean, if you wanted to talk about something that you should add before your training that actually enhances performance, and it does so at the muscular level, and it does so at the hydration level and recovery level and everything else, salt loading is almost essential. You should eat a salty meal before you train, right? And for people, for whatever reason, who are going to choose to train fasted, you might even want to consider adding salt to your coffee or water. As gross as that might sound, salts are absolutely fantastic pre-training. They enhance performance, and anyone who wants to be an athlete, you shouldn't be following a low-salt diet. All right, this is the stuff that we need to be looking at as far as athletes go. Yeah, I understand some people have hypertension and everything else, but that's an issue between you and your doctor, and a lot of that can be resolved by becoming more athletic. So once you start training and you spend a year training and improve your body composition and your conditioning and work capacity, you might find your hypertension goes away anyways, in which case you can go back to loading salt in your diet before you train. So I'm a big fan of salt loading, and I am actually a person who suffers from a medical condition that can be impacted by salt. And I found as I've gotten into better shape again over the years that it isn't an issue anymore. So yeah, I eat a really, really, really high sodium diet. And I always eat a salty meal before I train these days, if you're curious about it. So I'm a big fan of this. All right, next question. Can the old school method be used for other rep ranges than 5 to 8 successfully? Was thinking 3 to 6 and 7 to 10 for small isolations like side laterals and face pulls, even 12 to 15. I'm not saying it can't be, but there's a reason that gets used. And it's something you're going to notice a lot of older school coaches and people who've worked with people over the years tend to like the 5 to 8 for a lot of base building. The reason, you plateau slower there. In other words, because it strikes a good balance between high reps and low reps. And again, I'm going by from an athletic perspective when I say high reps versus low reps. I consider like 8 to 10 to be high reps, right? Anything over 8 is high reps. Anything under 5, actually anything under 4 is low. I don't consider 4 to even be low reps. That's not really powerlifting or maximum strength training. So 1 to 3 is low. And up to about 4 to 8 is just moderate reps. That moderate rep range usually allows for the longest period of time to where you can go without stalling and without needing to periodize anything. Now, people are like, don't you train mostly in the 1 to 3 now again between even your dynamic effort days? Like, yeah, but I'm also periodizing my training, right? The old school method is for very, very, very slow linear progression for people who don't want to use any form of periodization. And I think you're going to find that 3 to 6, you're going to stall a little more. You really, really got to watch that, because that also means you're going to be training in the 3 to 6 really heavy. You're going to be doing heavy triples 3 days a week. You better very much watch your fatigue management on that, right? And you might find that occasionally you run into problems with overall volume, or if you're doing a lot of triples, again, you can run into certain progression problems a little quicker. Not saying it can't be done. It can absolutely be done. It's just that you might not be able to stay there forever. And that's the whole point. That 5 to 8 is just something you would follow for several years straight, right? And that's the idea behind that progression method. Now, could you do it for your smaller exercises, like for that higher rep, like even 12 or 15 for really small movements? And please don't use the word isolation. We don't use that word on this channel, because that's a make-believe term. That's a make-believe fairyland bodybuilder term that bodybuilders imagined up one day, right? There's no such thing. Could you do it for smaller exercises? Sure, you could do it that way. But keep in mind, you're going to hit that fatigue to where it might be harder to track at a certain point where, 12 versus 15 might feel the same, and you might find that you go from being able to do 15 reps to 12 reps all of a sudden with the same weight. It's a little bit different when you're dealing in that rep range as far as tracking progression. You have certain fatigue that just kicks in and makes your rep ranges random, and it's very hard to progress in that rep range. I'm not saying you couldn't use it for that. Just be aware of that fact. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I'm going in for a DEXA scan next week, and I'm wondering if you have any advice on what to look for or questions I should ask during the consult. What were the most important parts of the scan and data for you? I'm just looking to put on some size and not overdo it, i.e. get super fat. I also use a calorie tracker app and would like to get a very solid idea of body fat percentage and what I really need to eat in a day. Should I do 3 scans over the bulk? What would you do? Thanks as always, but please, the +5 hat needs to make a comeback. Yeah, you can do, you need to do multiple scans. Well, like, what good is a single DEXA scan? It's not any good for you for tracking your progress, right? That's the whole point. Yeah, you need probably 3. You know, about 12 weeks apart, I think is good. No, it'll give you an idea of where you're at. You know, they offer other services, most DEXA scan companies. Most DEXA scan companies offer other services like measuring your BMI and all that stuff also, like, or your BMR. A lot of them offer nutrition consulting with registered dietitians and stuff. So what you're going to cover with you when you go in for the scan, you shouldn't ask me, ask the technician. They're going to cover all that with you. What you're going to find is that the tech who does your scan and sits down and does the consultation with you is going to go over the numbers with you. They're probably going to give you a 30-minute detailed conversation afterwards, and they're going to discuss what all of it means with you in detail. That's just part of the process. So that's already going to happen. The advice I would give you, though, is be consistent, because you can skew the numbers a little bit with your level of hydration, not your body fat. Like, don't let people tell you, oh, you could get a different body fat measure. No, that was the hardest to manipulate. You can manipulate your lean mass. So make sure you're consistent, meaning if you go for 3 different scans, eat the same dinner the night before, eat the same breakfast, or go in fasted. I did all of my DEXA scans completely fasted on nothing but black coffee, right? I drank black coffee before I did my scans, and I did all my scans, you know, within an hour of each other at the same time of morning. So consistency is going to be important, because remember, when you're doing a DEXA scan, you're doing it to track, not to trick yourself. So be consistent in water and food intake between each scan. That way you get a more accurate measurement of your intramuscular hydration and everything. So it's going to give you better consistency in determining how much you're gaining or losing. But the whole point of the DEXA scan is to give you tools to make adjustments as you track over time. That's the point. No one cares, hey, this is where I'm at on a one-time scan, unless they're just checking to see if you're on steroids or something, right? That's it. It's about giving yourself valuable feedback that you can use as an athlete over time. All right, next question. Will you be making an intermediate program using concurrent periodization anytime soon, or is that something you don't plan on doing? I'm sure a lot of viewers would be interested to see that and run such a program. Yeah, I probably will eventually, but I've been torn with on that because of the complexity of setting it up. Sometimes do I need to just make it a normal free video that I do like I normally do? Or is it something I need to put into an ebook and charge $15 or $20 for or something? I haven't decided yet on that. I will eventually do it, but if I'm leaning in the direction of an ebook, but if I do it as an ebook, I really, really don't want to make it off the cuff. I want to really put a lot of effort into it, and I want it to be a quality program, right? Because if I'm actually going to charge money for it, it better be damn good. You know, it can't be a piece of shit. I can't. I'm not going to feel right putting it out and charging for it unless I know that it's really, really good, because I really have a problem with people getting ripped off and snake oil salesmen. So that's something I'm going to need to think about. Otherwise, if I put it out as a free program, which I think all novice programs should be free, there's no reason to ever charge for a novice program. That's just total bullshit. And most people out there are novices. I'm going to say still probably 80% of my audience could probably still run a novice program. Let's just be honest here. They could, in which case they need to stick to the novice stuff, and I'm never going to charge for those things. They're always going to be free. So yeah, I mean, I've leaned in the direction of doing it. It's just which way I want to go with it as far as a concurrent one. Obviously, my linear intermediate program is free. I don't charge for that. That's up there, but it's an intermediate linear periodization instead of a concurrent periodization. So I might end up doing an orc mode intermediate and advanced both, where you shift between the two, like a one book for all of it. I might do that as an ebook later or something. Particularly advanced programs are different. They're more nuanced in a lot of ways. So those tend to be the thing you're more likely to put in a book that you might sell. But again, I don't think people should be charging $50, $60, $70 for a damn ebook either. That's total bullshit. All right, next question. Jason, what are your thoughts on the thumbless grip on the overhead press? Now that is a point of contention, and the reason for that is because I used to publicly support using the thumbless grip, right? I did it myself. That's what I showed on camera. That's what I taught, like, what, 5 years ago? Really, really long time ago, and I've gone back to a thumb over grip. And I think the reason that should probably be clarified is because some people do still remember that I used to promote the thumbless. I changed it based upon data and observing it and looking at what coaches and other people are doing. And my whole point with the thumbless grip was that it really let you get your elbows in front of you more, right? Which is easier on the rotator cuffs. You can reduce things like flaring, all of that nonsense too early in the rep. So it gives you that freedom of mobility. But what I noticed is that if you do the correct grip with a thumb over grip and you do like a bulldog type grip, which is what I actually do. That's why some people they think my wrists are bent back really far. They're not bent back as far as you think they are. That it allows you to also do a thumb over grip so you can grip it tighter and get better neuromuscular efficiency because you're going to be stronger. That's people ask me a lot of times on the press. They notice I'm pretty strong on the press. A lot of it has to do with how hard I grip the bar, and my elbow position makes a big difference as far as neuromuscular efficiency. So being able to grip the bar tighter, I feel like is worth 5 to 10 pounds on the lift. And so that thumb over grip there does that. And if you do it with the bulldog type grip and you focus on keeping those elbows in front of you at the start of the rep at the bottom, you end up getting the leverages you want to be easier on your shoulder joint and avoid the flaring and everything. So I think the thumb over is the way to go now, but I had reasons for promoting the thumbless, and it had to do with elbow position more than anything else. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.